Welcome back for the second game of the day. It's going to be Rising Dawn versus Lucent. It's going to be a high disparity in this one. While Rising Dawn are still looking for those playoffs, Lucent have to win this one if they want to get access to that one. It's not do or die, but we're getting to that corner.
Yeah, so obviously there are 6 games left for all of the teams who are yet to play yet. And typically the hump to get into playoffs is at the bare minimum 8 wins. So Lucent need to pick up 4 wins out of the next 6 games to basically hope to get in with no tiebreaker. 9 is typically well clear. It's very rare that we have a situation where 9-9 in a 10 team league doesn't get you playoffs. It can happen if the league is super tight and you end up with like tie breaks at 9-9. Very rare though. 9 is almost always safe. 8 a little less, but I think that's the number that Lucent have to realistically aim for, given they are 4 and 8 at the moment with 6 games left. I'm expecting them to try and punch up, but I think into a team like Rising Dawn, to be fair, Rising Dawn can be very much hit or miss, right? They are still, I think, currently where are they in the standings? They're 6 and 6. They are quite literally a miss. They are 50% win rate. Now they did take down Lucent in their first round robin matchup, and if memory serves me right, it was a bit of a thrashing, if I remember the game specifically. So I expect pretty much something of, a similar standard. Now, Lucent have made another change in their roster. You'll notice that Damdom is no longer their starting jungler. They've brought in Utah, so we'll see what he can bring to the roster as opposed to what Damdom and previous junglers were bringing. But we're here in Champion Select, and immediately from the get-go, we're seeing the Udyr actually banned away, which is a much different change of pace to what we can usually see from Rising Dawn bans, because typically it's Akshan, Camille sometimes, but Akshan and the Karthus. Those are the two junglers that are very common, or champions that get banned away very frequently. There's one of the two. I think teams have started to drop off of the Camille banners. More of a, if Fangstead ends up on the Camille, it's fine. We can have picks to deal with it. It doesn't need to be banned like the Karthus and the Akshan, because we don't get to scrim against those champions as frequently. But if they do go down this route, you could see Limitless immediately first pick that Zeri, because that is still up and available. Though hit on 12B, still something that teams are likely going to lean on as they slowly get used to the new patch. But Akshan remains up, and it's actually going to be a Renar's last second ban over instead. So let's see whether or not this changes Rising Dawn's priorities. It looks like the answer is no, and they're going to go towards that Kalista anyway.
Okay, I was not expecting this so fast first pick and lock in. Send it to the Lucent side and you decide what you want to do. We still have a few AD carries. Even though it was nerfed, the Zeri is still available, but obviously you're faced with the Kalista, and if you lose your early game, things are going to go downhill really fast. So let's see if it's going to be Fuyu picking on that one or not. It seems like they want to go for the more old pick. The FL is on the bot side. Obviously, you can pair it up with the support to be comfortable, or probably save the jungle instantly.
Yeah, definitely a risky move, especially if Rising Dawn go with a super early aggressive jungler and a very set up heavy support like Nautilus. Even if you end up in a bad support matchup per se, you could still run into a fair amount of issues inside the lanes just in the 2v2 trades. But Lucent are just doubling down. A Felios Corki first rotation. I'm snoring. I'm tired. I think I have an idea of what Lucent.
Your microphone.
What?
No, I'm kidding.
Well, okay, sorry. I think Lucent probably very clearly coming into this one with a sense of just, waiting until they hit their items here. As Rising Dawn, they are just going to pick up that Akshan. Denzel is going to be on that one most likely, and Firel is going to default to that Diana. It was hovered by Utah probably as a bit of a taunt, and does go for it. You've got that AD solo lane, AP jungle. Expect to see something AD heavy from Fangstead in the top lane. And then Rising Dawn are just going to hold on to that support counter pick for as long as they can, because in those Kalista lanes, typically 1-to-1, you're going to win out in the trades against the enemy AD carry. What you need most prominently is as positive a support matchup as possible. So let's see what they try to ban with that in mind, because I wouldn't be too surprised to see banned away as something like the Braum, just because it does so well into a lot of the melee setup supports that go with that Kalista at the very least on the side of them. And for Lucent, I think probably just Fangstead's champion pool. Instead, actually, no. Yeah, I think it still makes more sense to just ban away some of those more aggressive supports, even if you plan to hold on to support R5 on Little Pants.
Yeah, but if you bring the Braum for Find Forever, Akshan and Kalista can insta-proc them. It is way too fast. You don't
It's
want to allow
it's
that to happen.
actually, yeah, and now that you mention it, that's actually very, very scary for Lucent to have to deal with. I think there's actually a lot of value from the concussive blow stacks outside of you know, just
Bring the
sort
Lucian
of
in your
removing
death.
away. Yeah, so maybe, I mean, Lucent, they're banning away these aggressive supports, right? But I think Rising Dawn, maybe they wouldn't mind taking the Brawn themselves, even if they run into something like a Felios Karma, right? Or a Felios Lulu, which, yes, it's going to be super irritating to deal with in lane, but the dive setup is going to be fairly simple. All you need to do is get Brawn to auto attack somebody, and the concussive blow stack will come in very quickly. So let's see what Rising Dawn want to do, because they've removed away one top lane, they take away the Thresh safety net, which does definitely say to me Leona or again that Braum are the two things that prop up to mind immediately. Lucent now, I expect the top lane pick to come in blind, and then we'll move from there.
Uyu was so close to greatness, but in the end he faltered. It's going to be Tom Kench. One day. One day. Oh, they overed the Braum in 1 second. They overed the Braum 1 millisecond. I think that they're listening. I think they're listening. Limitless. That would be a good one, but no, it's not going to be the pick. I think they want something more interesting into the team. Oh, my boy!
Okay, so
We got the mustache.
all right, so the mustache does come in. Braum does come in. Definitely 1-to-1 with the Tom Kench. The lane can feel a little bit bad, but you have Kalista as your AD carry, so you should be winning out on those extended trades with the Ren stacks. So I don't really expect that to be too big of an issue. And the Braum can also deal with some of the diving potential that Utah was likely going to bring on the Wukong and help just keep his AD carry alive, but also provide a lot of additional aggressive potential as Vang's just going to blind pick the Darius, which very risky. I think into a play like DBL has a fairly wide repertoire of champions that he can pilot. It's just more about what Lucent actually want to put him on. Could see something like the Gangplank come in as kind of an answer to the Callister in the mid game, but also just a ranged scaling champion that can deal with Darius in lane in the sense of just farming from as max range as possible. And if he needs the jungler to come up and clear the wave, I think that's something that they can do. Going to lean on the Gragas instead. Can definitely understand that thought process. Just needed a neutralizer in the top lane. That was the important part that can provide a lot in those team fights in the mid game, and that is what they end up with. So Lucent, I think, very plain and simple. They are just playing for the Aphelios Corki Spike. Once that comes online, then they'll look to start playing. Rising Dawn is, blood in the eyes, like just full-blown ball sees red. We are going. And definitely not going to see them scale as hard. If they get a snowball going, man, is it going to go. But I think if they can't get things going early on and they don't grow a big enough item advantage and gold lead, then Lucent should be able to hold on for long enough for those stats to come in.
And if you shut down the Fet IRL with the Gianna, what sort of AP can you rely on this composition? Your build optimization is so easy for Lucent. There's a lot. Steel caps on this game is godlike, I would say. It's godlike. Even though you have the Braum, I mean, it's godlike to have that reduced damage coming in from auto attacks. It's a lot of value to build up armor versus these guys. Let's see how Rising Dawn are able to rise from the ashes on this one to fight off versus Lucent to get that 7 win, which you told us if you get 9 wins, you're almost secured to go into playoffs unless something goes really weird. For Lucent, if you stay with the 4, that's the bottom.
That's relegation territory. Yeah, that is relegation territory. So, if we're talking about a stabilization, right, of just not getting relegated, you're probably looking towards 6 wins at least. So you have to find them somewhere. And Rising Dawn, in the grand scheme of things, in the standings, they're not, super far above them. So it's definitely a possibility for them to try and pick up a win. Lucent don't really have, many easy, air quotes, easy opponents left. They've already played London United, and in the Super Week, they also played, that's it. Like, out of the sort of bottom teams around them, the only team right next to them they start to play is Guap. That's going to be in the final week of the split. But aside from that, their run of games is Rising Dawn here, obviously, Domino on Thursday, next week Lightside, and in that same week, they then play Rate to follow up, and then it's the Guap game. So there's a lot of games here which they are going to have to do a whole bunch of punching up in order to try and, get themselves in a position where they're not going to be looking as favors to be in the relegation series.
I think I hear the sound. It means that we can get the bird's eye view from the rift. as we're about to jump onto the second game of the day for the Northern League of Legends Championship. Division 2, it's going to be Lightside at this moment versus Guarp. Wait, what? I don't think this is correct. This is Rising Dawn versus Lucent though.
You wait for it. Wait
There
for
you
it.
go. 1 second, and we got
Wait.
that working for you guys. Don't worry. As my brain just melted, like, is this the right world?
It's already pretty warm, so melting makes sense. To be fair.
No. Here it's really good. It's really good.
Okay.
I'm letting you know in Berlin the weather is actually good.
That's nice to know. It's pretty funny because, and I spoke about this on a Saturday and probably the broadcast before because it was still pretty warm then. Because I've just spent some time in America, in Texas. It's basically a massive desert. I was having to live through 35, 6 degree weather for basically my entire stay, which was well over half a month. Yeah. So now that I'm back in the UK, where it's 30 degrees, 31 at the moment, it's going to get hotter and hotter. But it's the humidity, right? It keeps you warm. The sweat doesn't let you cool down, so you need to go constantly shower so that you can actually cool off. That's what people complain about. But people don't know if you just go have a cold shower for a minute. You just need to rinse off. That's it. Just clean out your pores. Then your sweat doesn't build up. Then you don't stop cooling down. It's a simple fix. But
well, thanks for solving the entire world, I would say.
In the first one, well, no, because not to derail the conversation too much, but it's more because
Portugal we've hit 47, by the way.
Yeah, wow. That is absurd.
It was, yeah. I think it was. If I'm mistaken, well, correct me. Maybe.
But see, the thing is, the heat in Portugal is probably relatively dry heat during the day. Is it humid? Oh no, because you're near the equator. Actually, I'll take that back. No, it's humid.
It's not a good time to be in Portugal. Oh. Well, I'm in Berlin. I'm doing fine as I'm watching this game as well.
Little pants.
It's going to be that fight. We talked about how fast he can stack it up. Lethal Tempo is giving Kalista way too much attack speed. That's going to be an easy first blood. Might as well looking for the second one. But he goes underneath the turret.
Oh my god. And this is what we was talking about. It's why I mentioned the Braum so early on in the draft. Just simply because, Aphelios, yes, probably wanted the Braum on his end. But then we started seeing those aggressive supports be banned away instead of the Braum. And once they went for the Tahm Kench, sure, Braum, in theory, 1-to-1 doesn't necessarily have the best laning phase into Tahm Kench. Tahm Kench still has a pretty good time into most melee supports. You're stacking up concussive blows for the Kalista. It makes skirmishing so easy. And we just see it exemplified there. First blood goes over to that Kalista, and Fuyu almost loses his life on top of that as well. And now Limitless is going to go back to base, likely either pick up a Noon Quiver or tier 2 boots. Or actually, no, he got it so quickly that I don't think he's got enough gold. So he's actually just going to pick up the Vamp Scepter instead. But still, that additional sustain is going to pay off absolute wonders in those trades. If they keep them short, if they keep them long, the additional health is going to go the distance.
This is not even a fight, but they were on the clock. That's the thing. Limitless was on the clock. We needed to get any sort of kills or advantage on the bot side to be relevant on this game. And they got the first blood. They got the pressure. They got the summoner spells. This allowed Diana to go bot in a few minutes, probably get that level 6 and go there to apply that massive CC and try to kill Fuyu yet again. Well, at least Fuyu for the first time and Little Pants again. And Vangstad is doing fine by himself. This is not a matchup where the Gragas will win. You will be able to farm, but Darius will be able to farm as well.
Yeah, so it's a bit of an irritating matchup from the Darius side of things, because obviously as a Darius, you want to really get up in the face of your enemy laner.
Yeah.
And really try and bully them out and trade very heavily, because in the extended, you should be the one that wins out in most lane matchups. Gragas just kind of has a kit which is designed for, disengage into champions like this, right? You get apprehended, oh, okay, well, I'll just body slam Q or you and I'll get phase rush and walk away. There's not really too much, what's the word I'm looking for here? There's not really too much counterplay, I suppose. There's another word I'm looking for instead, but counterplay is what I'll go with for now. Where there's just not really much answer. So you'll kind of see, in this case, the minions blocked the potential for a body slam, but gets pulled in, immediately just body slam Darius, and you just walk away. That's it. Simple as that. Trade done.
But if you don't get the kills, if you don't, well, at least you can get the farm. It's 39 to 27, even though it's not going to be a big deal for the Gragas. He's fine missing a few minions because this build is really cheap for the Gragas nowadays, and I think that's one of the reasons why you can shine on that Gragas. You get a lot of haste and you don't need to pay a lot. But for the Darius, if you get access to those items to split push eventually, I don't know what sort of build Bankstead is going, but it's Bankstead, you know. Either he wants to shine on team fights or he wants to demolish the enemy in top lane.
Exactly. So we'll get a gauge on what he goes for once he does base and pick up a couple of components potentially. But he's out of mana, so I expect he will go back to base now. Or sooner rather than later. As Rising Dawn are actually on this dragon, just using the mid lane priority the bottom side priority and the mid lane priority, which they had Denzel based after he shoved in a wave. And Fire will pick up that dragon. It's Ocean that spawns second, so let's see, the Hex, Mountain, or of course the
don't
other one.
The other one, okay. The name
the
we
other
should
one.
not
Yeah.
announce. Yeah,
Exactly. It's the other one.
That one is our Voldemort nowadays.
Yeah, it's like saying Candyman in the mirror 3 times, you know? Like it's or Bloody Mary, it's just cursed. Like don't
Candyman, I have no idea what happens, but okay. Never heard before, just that.
I think it's Candyman. Definitely Bloody Mary is the spooky one, but
yeah.
Fine Forever going in here, no pants.
Another stun, another damage, you put in the shield, but here comes Fat ERL. He gets the assist, almost doesn't even scratch the surface, as now Fine Forever goes in, gets on Utah, and Utah is not allowed to go in. Limitless still has the lethal tempo stacked, so you cannot hold this sort of trade.
Yeah, no, you can't right now. Seems like Rising Dawn.
You didn't
Utah,
see it?
Oh no.
But it's still there. Diana with the ultimate going in hard, and Utah falls down prey to his own gank.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure what the idea was there for Utah. No level 6. Fire Out also does kind of hit it quite like at an opportune time, so definitely feels a little bit bad, but definitely not something you should really be looking for. You'd already lost your support. Just kind of take the L, but instead pays for it with his life. And now Rising Dawn, they're up 3 kills. They're up 2,000 gold, and Limitless is the benefactor of basically everything. 2 kills, picked up the Berserker Greaves now, so those trades are only going to get harder to deal with those tier 2 boots. Of course, Kalista passive scales with boot tier, which attack speed as well, just makes her so mobile. So already moving towards that shield boat, going to be so hard to deal with.
7 minutes and 37 seconds, not a lot of action going on, and I was expecting a little bit more action from Denzel with this auction. Can you tell me where this auction is going to shine in this matchup? Because even in these trades, okay, eventually you get that one with the press the attack, but when do you shine?
I mean, it's definitely on the opportunity to roam. I'm just maybe not sure whether or not he's had very strong windows to do so, and especially when you look towards the top side, the trades haven't been heavy enough for him to, you know, really make an impact or make him feel like there's an opportunity to make an impact on the top side. And as for the bottom side, the plays have kind of just been happening silently. And I mean, to be fair, Akshan scales fairly well pending the comp that he's into. So I think it's absolutely okay for him to sit back, kind of farm up, wait for his items, then look for assassination picks in the mid game. Of course, it does just kind of mean Kurosh on the cork he gets a lot of time to scale up and hit his own power spikes too.
Frontline to try to compensate it, even though 2 kills for the Kalista, 1 assist as well. 100% kill participation, but in farm, he's falling behind a little bit. It's not that important right now. We go through that ward. The red buff was stolen by Utah, I believe. Trying to slow down the bleeding. Yes, it was. Fun Forever still at level 5 at 8 minutes and 55 seconds. Going to get a late level 6. But even though he doesn't have it, Kalista has it, and he wants to throw the Pokemon, and he needs that Glacial Fissure. Maybe with a level 6 from Brawl, they can go for another kill on Fuyu, or at least burn this flash away to allow Diana to do something. And we've seen some different build paths from the Dianas. Can you tell me what you believe would be the best one for this game?
Ooh, I mean, Nash's Tooth, almost always a really strong item to pick up on Diana. After that, honestly, I don't know. I feel like this champ can work with so many mythics. If you feel like, you know, you're going to kind of drain tank in a game, then maybe you can actually go Riftmaker and make that item work. If you're looking purely for burst, you know, Ludon's totally okay, but not typically one that gets picked up, but it's more in trade for that Rocket Belt instead. Night Harvester, something, of course, that also got buffed, and all the ability haste that you get, additional ability haste, can definitely feel quite nice. So plenty of options for Fire Out. I guess we'll kind of just have to wait and see what he ends up buying for himself, what he feels like is the best in this game. I'm personally a bit of a fiend for long extended fights, so I feel like Riftmaker would be like okay if you start to get down and dirty into the mix of things. But I think in a game like this, you're really playing to try and assassinate the backline. So something with a little more burst, like that Rocket Bell, is probably what I'm hoping to see out of that arrow.
And you need to protect yourself from those AD threats, the Action, the Callista, and the Darius. And if you do that, you're ignoring the Diana. And we were talking about that. If she falls behind, it's going to be complicated if you don't have any sort of magical power. And apparently, she's not falling behind. She's the one ahead.
Yeah, she's up.
1 kill, 1 assist. She's really up.
Yeah, she's up. Obviously, those kills and assists, but also up basically 20 CS in jungle to jungle. It's 5 camps up. Pretty insane. But that is just kind of the power and the speed of Diana Clear. Yuta's also been a little bit slower to the punch on a lot of plays. Now, package is here for Lucent, so they definitely have a pretty good window. But champion to champion right now is Rising Dawn that is significantly stronger.
We need to slow this one down as Ocean Drake. There you go, the red carpet is there. You cannot walk on it, but Diana goes in, steals it away. He uses the Moonlight Vigil. That is more than enough to buy themselves some time. But Kurosh now sending all those rockets, and I believe that they stole it, but they paid the ultimate price.
Oh,
and the
no.
Stencil revives them all instantly. They're still a fight. They're still a fight. Bumstead was there for some reason. He wants to get the kill. He's running out of mana. He tries to sustain himself, but no one goes on the eggs. And in the end, I would say this was not bad for both teams.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really not too sure why Vangsted ended up there at the end of the day, but for Rising Dawn, okay, talk about the pros and cons for both sides, right? Start with Rising Dawn, they picked up the dragon. Great. Amazing stuff. Bad parts of that, they go over quite a few kills, and look where they landed. In particular, it's Crush that picks up 2 kills, 3 assists. The package, really good, and of course, that Graviton moment from trying to dissuade a lot of Rising Dawn, and eventually they just make the choice to try and go over it. But you can see how much damage and slow that actually provides, whilst Yuta also shreds the health bars with that Cyclone. And Fuyu eventually does drop to Denzel, who was basically a hair's breadth away from dying, and Vangsted just, it's the cask that stops him from getting the resets. Otherwise, he definitely would have tried to take over the game. So credit to DBL for saving his mid laner's life there. Herald will get dropped in the mid lane, so the gold will go into Denzel and Firearm's pocket. But again, for Lucent, pros of that, gold went into the members that it really did need to go into. They lose out on these mid lane plates. In the extended, you can technically argue that's still part of the same sequence of play. But again, they lose out on the dragon, and now they do have to consider having to contest this 3rd dragon. If they do let it go, then they're always going to be at soul point if they are able to successfully pick up a dragon, and that's a lot of pressure to be under for the rest of the game.
This is what we can expect in the late game. We were talking about where the action shines. Well, on these situations, on this part of the map, on this part of the play itself, yeah, definitely wasn't that important. They want to dive on DBL. It's not going to be the easiest task, but they burned away the flash. This could be definitely a window. Vangsted, 1v3, we know him. He shouldn't take this one. It's a bad idea, but it's Vangsted. DBL now tanking up. There you go, there's nothing you can do. And there you go, he goes in regardless. He's going for Little Pants, but yet again, he fails the X. And if he's able to kill Little Pants,
Denzel.
There you go, you got it. But that's
so
not going to be
unfortunately,
the fight.
Fuyu is the scoundrel, so he's the one that he has to kill if he's actually to pick up the revive. So on the bottom side, the dive works out for Rising Dawn, and yes, Vangsted, well, for lack of a better way of putting it, he just makes a Vangsted play. He goes for something that he probably shouldn't be doing. Should be looking to, either defend the tower dive outright or, something a little less aggressive than that. But Rising Dawn still on the bottom side of the map. They get what they came for. They pick up the dive onto DBL. They pick up the tower. And now Limitless should be able to pick up a shield boat. And he's going to be a lot stronger and a lot harder to kill in the immediate future. And expect to see him go towards even more damage items. Wit's End seems like it's what's going to be second here. Definitely understand it. I think when you're into Corki, you're into AP Gragas, a lot of the damage that is going to be scary that you'll be receiving is going to come through that, and probably just looking to get a lot of the resists, I suppose, or air quotes resists from the likes of Fuyu and Yuta from the shield bow and the healer instead.
Second Herald would be a good way for Lucent to skyrocket in this game if they are capable of opening up the map a little bit, try to make those picks a bit more reliable or set up some team fights. There's no package on this one, so it's going to be complicated to navigate this one. It seems like Rising Dawn are going to be pushed away. Vangsted, no teleport available, so you can't reasonably help on this team fight. So you take the Herald, we take the turret by ourselves. There's no minions, but one survives. They're going for DBL. He gets the Bunny Slam away. Regardless of that, to take the turret. And Vangstead already looking for the T2. This is way more valuable than the Herald.
Yeah, I mean, a lot more valuable than the Herald, right? Pick up 600 gold on the bottom side, mid lane tier 1. Find forever! Hey! He stole the local gold from Vangstead. Okay, right, they shared the cannon as well. I mean, gosh, Find Forever. If he doesn't need that for, like, his support item or something, which I don't even know the combined cost of Locket, so I'm not even going to pretend that I think he has enough or doesn't. Yeah, a little bit mildly illegal, shall we say. But tower trades go across the board, and Fuyu picks up a lot of gold on this cross map. So, again, you have to remember, sometimes gold differences can be a little bit misleading, right? Because when you actually take a step back and you look at the items that have been completed, at the moment, as everybody is on the Rift, things are at basically parity, despite a 3,000 gold lead, right? Fuyu and Limitless both have a mythic and components. Kurosh and Denzel, same thing. And then kind of across the board, full item / mythic again, at parity, at equal terms. So if Lucent were to take a fight right now, were they to try and fight at Third Dragon, they actually had a fairly solid chance of trying to find the win. But again, we spoke about the trade-off that would have to come in 5 minutes time about that Third Dragon. Seems like the answer for Lucent was just giving it up, getting to the core item spikes properly, and then fighting from soul point disadvantage onwards. It's very risky. Oh, Evan Shroud. Wow, okay, so...
Okay.
Definitely not something we see too frequently on a lot of supports. And even if you do, it's on champions like Rel, for example, where you kind of dogpile on the engage. It makes a little more sense, because you have to remember, it's immobilizing champions, which grants the damage increase to to the target. So Braum can only do that from 2 manners, the passive or the Glacial Fissure. So I'm not too sold. I think it's pretty hard application, but Find Forever in a little bit of danger here.
Fine, brings in the wall, the door is closed, and it takes a long time to bring him down, and he's still alive somehow as the Diana goes in. That's the perfect ultimate. And look at the damage that she's dealing on the back line. This could be a 1-for-1 support for the jungle. If Action gets a kill, this would be perfect for them. DBL is the one dying at the hands of Vangstead as he's looking for those. Reset City double kill. Still not the, how do you call it? The one that you need to call with the action? The Scoundrel, yeah.
Scoundrel, yeah, there you go.
I love that name.
You know, I remember when Akshan came out last year. And we still, I had to like confirm, like, was it longer than that? Because there's been so many champions still since Akshan.
Okay.
But when we had Ex-Scoundrel on the show still, retired from hosting the NLC, it was quite funny whenever we did have Akshan show his face on Division 1. It's like, Scoundrel, hey, look, it's you. Kind of deal. Do miss.
You need to kill you. And then he disappeared. Yeah, I see where you're going. I see where you're going, Jamada.
Yeah.
Ex-Scoundrel, hit me on the abs if you need help. I'm just saying.
Very lovely.
On the next target.
He was like the NLC dad. Yeah, he's such a nice guy. Very random tangent, I know, but was always very, very kind and helpful, especially when I first came into the scene at the start of last year. Anyway, stories aside, Lucent still find themselves pretty far down in gold, but again, it's about tracking the items and kind of getting a gauge for how strong the champions are. And Kurosh, very, very close. Actually, if we could take a look at the gold, I imagine he's going to base for Ludens now, so he's at the Luden spike. Corki is online. Fuyu also has that Lord Dominic's as well, so he's at the 2-iron mark. So for now, Lucent are about as ready as they're ever going to be to try and contest the fight. It's about sort of looking and trying to gauge where Rising Dawn are, because they're all at 2 items themselves, besides Vangstead. So they are technically, at item parry, except for the jungle, where Fire finds himself ahead. EBL, however, is dead to rights.
This can happen, though. 19 minutes and 41 seconds. If they get something like an ace, this could be a better...
Baron is really plausible.
What a nice engage from the Diana. That's more than enough to allow Limitless to go Limitless. He goes for the next kill, and there you go. He gets it nonetheless. It's a quadra kill out of nowhere. Kurosh is the sole survivor,
Oh, if
and
they kill him.
Vangstead wants to work on that one. Denzel has the rope if he wants to go in, but it's a 14-9, and all of a sudden, Limitless, well, living his nickname.
Yeah, Limitless really was playing at the boundaries of what he could make work for that play, and finds himself a quadra kill, man. Now he's got the Guinsu so strong. And we're talking about literally 15 seconds ago how, for the moment, Limitless and Fuyu are kind of at item parity. Not necessarily champion strength parity, but they can still, you know, they can air quotes fight on even terms in that regard, in gold. But now, with the Guinsu's picked up, he is, you know, a full half an item on top of what Fuyu can put out. Fuyu, with that BF sword, of course, could technically go into a BT for survivability, but I expect it to go into Infinity Edge. Definitely very necessary. Kurosh should pick up the package. Now Lucent, we'll see whether or not they contest this dragon. I mean, they have to, otherwise they give over Mountain Salt. Utah, Lil Pants, they're in the river, but their damage dealers just aren't here yet.
And Limitless is there. 2 items completed aside from that mythic. That is a big power spike that you don't want to mess with. You cannot afford yourself another mistake at this timing. This could be the soul. I don't know if Rising Dawn are going to overcommit this one, as Fat IRL is going to at least bait in the package, and this is going to be the engage from Utah. This is the fight for Lucent. They want to take the fight to the enemy. Vangstead gets exhausted, but meanwhile that's not enough to stop him, as Limitless gets yet another one. Nobody's going for the Callista, and even though Vangstead is doing all that damage, Limitless is still alive. The HP bars are really low though. Oh, Moonlight Vigil. Fed IRL takes way too much damage as Fuyu is going to sustain himself. But Limitless pulls the trigger. I don't know if this is a good one.
Oh, he was on vision.
This is a good one. DBL gets annihilated from Limitless. The spears are going to render him obsolete on that one. He's still stacking. If he gets enough stacks, he can go for it. Kurosh, way too low. That's another one. That's the perfect pilot on Callista. As the ace comes in, it's going to be the soul for Rising Dawn.
Yeah, so everything goes the way of Rising Dawn. Yes, they lose a couple of members. Fire does get picked off by DBL, and it did look very scary for a brief moment. But Kurosh is able to be bursted out, and as soon as he drops, unfortunately, Fuyu was not really able to get too much done. Now Rising Dawn, I think they're going to look towards the Baron. We'll get a very brief look at this replay before we continue on. So the initial engage looks kind of shaky from Rising Dawn, to be honest with you. Even though, yes, this is all pretty good. Look at Fuyu's guns, and they're fighting into a choke against Infernum and Corki at the same time. They get absolutely shredded. They have to come out of it because this Baron is tied up, and Lil Pants is in the pit.
It's in the pit, fight forever, way too low, but DBL is the one to kick the bucket first. 2,000 HP, he wants to seal it away. Yuta doing all he can to bring the battle lower, but it's not enough. 3 kills, 35 seconds. Jamada, that's a soul team with a Baron as well. They can just go for it, and they can play it smart and recall before they commit themselves to finish the game.
Yeah, I just feel like there's really not too much Lucent can do at the moment. Like, again, they drafted for late game scaling. Corki, Aphelios, they're slowly coming online, but right now they've just made too many errors and given Rising Dawn too many avenues to play through. And again, Limitless, you know, really is playing to his namesake at the moment. And across the board, it just feels like Rising Dawn are just on the same page in comparison to what Lucent are putting on the table in some of these skirmishes. Now at this point, I just feel like Rising Dawn can just slap Lucent with their wallet and the stats that they have in their back pockets. I think the lead might be a little bit too overbearing. Denzel, he's followed Kurosh. And I think he still had vision. He's dead. Oh, Gobble! Last second. All right. Well,
there you go. More than enough. He's on thin line before he dies, and he goes away. But still, you lost the ultimate. Meanwhile, Akshan is pushing the sideline. No one is replying to him, and this means that Yuta needs to make that play. But instantly, Fed IRL sees where the monkey is. He's not getting tricked by monkey trickery. As a T3, the inhibitor turret is going to go down. Vangstead yet alone. Well, that's the usual. He goes for the kill, gets the reset, but the Conqueror doesn't sustain him long enough. And this means on the bottom side, they can just push in. No inhibitor, no turret. The Nexus is now being pushed in. What can Lucent do, Jamada?
I'm really not too sure, because having lost DBL, that's a lot. They're disengaged and they're getting dove underneath the tower.
Limitless is vengeance. Limitless gets the triple. Limitless gets the quadra with the ace. And Rising Dawn keeps rising on the standings. Lucent being thrown down. Rising Dawn once more. They want to go to playoffs.
Yeah, and look at them dancing in the base. They know This game's been done for a really long time. Death timers, no one is going to be up in time to save this game. As Nexus Towers may fall. Penta's technically available, but I don't know if
it's gone. It's
I don't know
gone
if it's
by now.
I don't think it's
Seconds
advised.
is gone by
it's
now.
gone. It's gone. But
they might get another kill. That I can give you. Well, Little Pets was just going to sacrifice himself, but at the end, it's going to be the Nexus exploding in favor of Rising Dawn as they get one step closer to playoffs.
Yeah, Rising Dawn. It's all about, you know, just ensuring they keep themselves in that top 6 spot. They are more than capable of being a playoffs team, and definitely dispatching Lucent with very little difficulties there. Again, I just feel like from the draft, not that this was necessarily Rising Dawn having a stronger draft, but this was Rising Dawn executing on their draft far better than what we actually ended up seeing out of Lucent. There was not too many strong cross maps. Yes, there are actually some pretty okay ones from Lucent, particularly I think it was at the second Herald where Fuyu ended up picking up a tower and then another tower actually. So I think he picked up 2 towers in trade for just the one in the dragon, and getting, you know, the Aphelios back on parry with the Callista was definitely a very big deal. But again, in the scope of the game, if you somehow manage to then give Callista a quadra kill and she gets too far ahead and everything gets too out of control, then yeah, things are always going to be difficult to pilot out. And it just felt like there was nothing really to shut down the carries of Rising Dawn until Corki and Aphelios came online, which they never really were able to do.
On one side, you have a team that is almost secured for playoffs. On the other side, it's a team that is facing relegations. It's not a good position. So let's talk with them as we move on to the interviews. I'll see you in a bit.